Great Writers Media.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're tackling the complex and timely issues of global politics and personal struggles with one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite authors, James Maiwurm. He has penned a powerful book. It is called Inheritance of Crises and Dysfunction. This thought-provoking novel explores the deep divisions in American politics, international disarray, and the personal challenges of aging and loss. Through the journey of protagonist Salt Pepper, we witness a gripping tale of clandestine diplomacy, resilience, and the search for solutions to crises both at home and abroad. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us once again here today on Spotlight. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing this amazing book. The links are below this interview. James, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
It's great to be here, Logan. Glad to be with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Wonderful to have you back on the show. When you look at the title of this book, Inheritance of Crises and Dysfunction, you can't help but think that this has to be a mirror of what's happening right now in our country. There is so much dysfunction, particularly on a governmental and political level. But this book has been a work in the making for quite a while, correct?
Correct. That's a very good point that you make. The genesis of this book really began in the late '99 when I was looking forward to what we all experienced in COVID, which was sort of a downward drift, that's for sure, in terms of mood and business conditions. And then it was also a situation where we were on our way toward a recession. Been worse, could have been better, but we were looking at all kinds of things that were going to affect us as people, and I think that combined with the invasive, hard-knuckled fighting among politicians, which made it difficult for people to come together. We had a situation where it could have drifted in a southern direction in a big way real fast. And so I can remember thinking to myself, what is it that I'm going to get out of this for my kids and my grandkids? Mm-hmm. Because all of us, and this, I think, is everybody in the world, we want out of life. We want to do some good, have some fun, but we also want to have our children and our grandchildren come out of this situation better off than we were when we were their age. So it's a tough thing to accomplish. But I have found that in people all over the world, you find these fundamental strengthening of single factor analysis that really sort of tends to bring people together as opposed to letting them sort of drift apart. And we need more of that. And it's easier said than done. But I really was thinking as I began to write the book, what can I do? I can remember also thinking in those days of what happened when the Obama presidency started. And I thought, that's an interesting situation. But what was remarkable about it in so many ways was that 70 million people voted against President Trump. And how do we get a situation where we have that much dissonance? And how do we bring people together in a broader way rather than driving them apart? When you think about, one of the things I wanted to do is to make people think, make people talk, encourage them to do, and thereby emphasize the need of hitting the sweet spot in the middle as opposed to being at the far edge of the world.
Yeah, it seems like there's so much political dysfunction. It used to be you supported one candidate because you were in favor of him. And I say him because it used to be only men. Now you like one candidate and hate the other. I mean, it's so polarized. I mean, I don't think people liked Kennedy and hated Nixon and so forth and so on. I mean, feelings are so strong. Polarization is so real right now, right?
Very good point. And polarization is real, and it's deep and it's widespread.
Yeah.
And even today, read the polls for what they're worth, and who knows. But the polls would tell you that we're still deeply divided, even in best case analysis. And so I think we have to really work hard because, this is not just about us. It is about our families. It is about our friends. It is about our allies and in the world of the need for common defense. So a lot of things riding on our ability to avoid breaking glass around the machinations that we all go through. I think your point is right on.
Yeah. I think people have learned, the marketers have learned, the political gurus out there, that polarization works. All you need is half the country or 51% of the country to buy your product or support your candidate, and that's enough. Unfortunately, it leaves the masses, it leaves the country in disarray when you have a choice between, you know, love and hate only, and there's nothing in between. You should support a candidate. I don't think you should worship one. I don't think you should despise the other. But it seems like that's where we've gotten to in our political dialogue these days. Why don't we give the folks at home an overview of your book? Let's give them a
Sure.
synopsis.
Well, the synopsis will go something like this. It starts out with a character who grew up in small town America. I mean, really small town. And his family owned a farm on the outskirts of the small town. And he stayed there until he graduated from college. And then he disappeared into the Midwest to go to school. And then ended up working for the government for about 30 years. So he comes across as somebody who has seen a lot of international experience, deep and dark stuff that is important. But his background is that of one that it really consists of this middle ground that we're talking about, the middle of the field of play. So he struggles with this. His wife dies as a result of exposure, and while she was volunteering in a hospital. So he's wondering, what the heck do I do with my life? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this telephone call from the White House, which is a fellow who knew him when they were both working in the government, and where our provocateur was well known and respected. And the White House says they want somebody neutral in the middle and respected to help try to break through some of these barriers that you were just explaining. So that's how the story starts. And then the rest of the book focuses on how does this main character work with others, deal with his own personal problems at a sensitive time in life, to understand what are the local business problems, farming problems that are becoming up and down with tariffs and the like, and then also to understand how foreign world expects us to act as America. The world has great expectations from us. They have built up a reliance on us, which is not necessarily bad at all, but it is a responsibility, and it is when people say we have the largest defense ever put together in the world, when you put together the people who joined together to defend Ukraine, that says something. But how long can that keep on working? We've been to Iraq, we've been to Afghanistan, we've been to Ukraine, and we need to keep those alliances alive at a point in time when many people outside America and some people inside America think this is a winner takes all situation, as opposed to an all works for all. And so we play through various situations in our meetings in London, in Berlin, in Prague, and trying to show how these various countries interact with one another, and how there is a tension associated with these interactions. And there's a jealousy on the one hand, but there's also a dependence on the other. And how do you mix jealousy and dependence? That's a neat trick, but that's what he's faced with doing. And it's on a personal basis, And we tend to look at each of these sectors, small business, manufacturing, and try to get portions of the book that explain how the world conditions are going to affect those people in their various stages of development.
Yeah.
So it's a broad set of topics, but it was intentionally that way, and it's designed to make people think. You want people to think about what is the right thing to do in terms of voting and other political activity, because we want people to be active, want them to be active in a proactive way, but also in a sensible way. Because not only do our neighbors down the road depend on the rest of the world depends on us, and we depend on them, and we better darn well hang together, or surely hang separate.
Yeah, absolutely. America sneezes and the world catches a cold. I mean, what
There
happens
you go.
here matters. It has implications across the globe. If we don't lead, who will? If not us, who? If not now, when? Those are questions that have been asked for quite a while now, and questions that are extremely pressing considering our political turmoil of late. All of your work, of course, is rooted in reality in this book. Why did you choose to write a novel rather than a work of nonfiction?
Well, I wanted to have a little more freedom to condense the points I was trying to make into a single title. And that was, to be honest with you, that was a little bit tricky
Mm.
because things change, time moves on, and it is a little bit hard to pull it all together. But I think we're in a world where all of these various factors do come together. And it's the farmer, the guy who has a small men's store, it's the small town, it's the church that has a shrinking population. It's Germany going through a recent election where they went mostly to the right. No, not mostly, but significantly to the right in terms of their politics. So all of these things hang together and they affect one another. And it's sort of like watching a movie puzzle hanging from a globe. It just analyzing the way these things all interact. And if you don't think tariffs make a difference to people in the United States, you probably need to rethink your position because everything affects everything at some level.
Absolutely. The book reminds me a little bit, perhaps, of a Capra film, a Frank Capra film, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, that kind of thing, with the local guy, the farmer. Have you envisioned this as a film?
Yes, we're looking at it as a film. It could be a film, it could be a series, it could be a short movie or a full-length feature. And we're looking at all those things. We think, when I was writing the book, I thought about the potential for sequels where you would break something off and where the ramp might come to an end and move on to a different road, or a movie. And I think it's well, and we've been told by others that it has potential as a movie, and we tend to try to collect on that because it's another way to, from my standpoint, it's another way to convey and communicate important principles and issues. And we'd like people to have a bag of popcorn, but also a few things to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be a great movie or a TV series. I think there's a lot to explore. We could educate the folks at home, of course, entertain them as well with this story. The novel opens on Inauguration Day 2021. Why did you choose this moment as a backdrop to explore the political divisions in America?
Probably, well, there are lots of reasons behind that, but partly that's when I was thinking most deeply with the most sincere concern about what we were creating for your children and mine and their children, and how we ought to be about that. How does it that you can have a situation where 70 million people vote for a person who is not elected, but at the same time, this person is able to show on a desk of a Georgia governor how it only takes 11,000 votes to change the result. I mean, my goodness, it's going to be the same issue. It'll be a very small percentage of the vote that makes a difference in the final analysis.
Yeah.
And so, if each of us can affect 7 people, not 11. No, not 11,000. That's all it takes, and it's scary. And so I think we all need to be, if you're not involved, you're not only missing something important, you're missing it altogether because it's a serious set of issues.
Yeah. Did you watch the presidential debate the other night? Would you like to comment
Well,
on it? No, you didn't watch?
I did watch it, and I thought, wow, things haven't changed.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting debate, and certainly differences came through.
Mm.
But the underlying disgruntlement that you were referring to, and that the book speaks to, it was
Yeah.
in full display
Yeah.
there. And I understand. I'm not really critical of the candidates. Those are the rules of the game.
Mhm.
But you didn't see much hope for togetherness there.
Mhm.
It was a very interesting human dynamics story.
Yeah, exactly. And two completely different candidates. One was, you know, raw and unrehearsed, and the other one was completely rehearsed.
Yeah.
And it seems scripted. So depending on what your political leanings are, you might like one, you might like the other. But like you said, they certainly were very disparate views of the United States, and made the best candidate win, of course, and whatever is in the best interest of our country. Talk to us a little bit about the title of the book, Inheritance of Crises and Dysfunction, and how it relates to the themes in the book.
Well, that goes to my concerns about what are our children and grandchildren going to inherit,
Mm.
and what they're going to inherit if we're not careful here is crises and dysfunction. We've certainly got dysfunction, and we have our fair share of crises. So, what the story of the book is about is that inheritance, your kids and mine, and our friends and your colleagues, and how that affects your day-to-day life, their day-to-day prospects. And so the book, the title is probably too long,
Mm.
but it's a big pot of information,
Yeah,
and I hope thought provocation, because there's
absolutely.
a lot to think about.
Yep, it's absolutely a great provocative title. Makes you want to pick it up and read. Like I said, particularly, it seems very, very timely. Um, Tell us a little bit about the personal struggles that you address in the book, such as loss and aging.
Well, those are, I just feel some of those, some of those wins in my own life, as you can imagine. I've aged out of 2 board seats, so you can tell I have a personal experience with that. But the aging of America has been brought, I think, to the top of the list of some sort of a item because of the fact that you have, a year ago, the 2 primary candidates for presidency
Hmm.
were Trump and
And
Biden,
yeah,
both of whom are older than I am. I'm no
yeah,
spring chicken, and so you know you can say wisdom is born of experience and judgment, and I believe that. But there comes a point in time when you go too far,
Mhm.
and when you get into the business world, I understand the need for age limits, even though I was bitten by them on 2 occasions. But I think treatment of our elders and taking advantage of the strength and character is important. My mom and dad served in World War II. They were actually married in the
Mm.
Philippines during the war. They were married during the week between Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Wow.
It was an interesting time to
Yeah,
be
that's an
in,
interesting, time in
and
American history.
and but they were heroes of mine as far as I'm concerned. She was a nurse and my dad was a pilot. And we've got those people all around us,
Hmm.
but they are not as many of them as there used to be. And if you watch these programs about what happened on D-Day and
Yeah.
made that happen.
Yeah.
That has to do with the inheritance that they created for us. And now it's time for us to recreate that same firmness of thought, that same middle market thought that really pulls together and makes people understand why it's better that we sweat through these things as collectively as possible as opposed to individually. Yeah. And so the reference to dysfunction is really the desire to sort of reemphasize the fact that dysfunction, which implies lots of different points of view being expressed in strong terms, can be a bad thing. I have to speed my puck off here.
Yeah.
So that's how that breaks together.
Yeah. What do you see as the solution to the discord and the polarization in the United States right now?
Well, I think it's a political problem, as you pointed out earlier. I agree with that, and so I think there has to be a political solution, yeah, which is born of discussion and thoughtful discussion, as opposed to people not listening and talking against or across one another, as opposed to teaming together. And if you listen to some of the historians or you read some of the history of any point in time in our life, you realize that that didn't happen automatically. Mm-hmm. And you can go back as far as before the Civil War, and that was a function of our operative democracy at the time. You had conflict resolution all the time. That eventually led to the ultimate revolutions. Yeah. But we're not at a civil war point. But dysfunction is harmful. You can all do better together. In my travels around the world, and I've been fortunate to have exposure to peoples around the world, and I'm absolutely convinced that if you go to and if you had a chance to talk to the cab driver in Hong Kong, the farmer in Bratislava, the industrialist in Germany, the miner in Russia, you can get down to the people who are actually doing it. They all say, "What the heck are you doing?" Look, all I'm worried about is a fair wage, for a fair effort. And I want my kids to have a fair opportunity. And all of that should be easy to accomplish. All I want is fairness in the aggregate. However one defines that, and then it's defined different ways. Yeah. So I think that's what we're looking for. And it's amazing how I think the people around the world, if you can sit down and have a beer or a coffee, that's what you'd come away from. So yeah. I think dysfunction is partly a result of not really focusing on the positive as opposed to the negative. Yeah. And being actively involved in building bridges as opposed to blowing them up.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that the goals of most people are very, very similar. In this country, whether you're on the left or the right, around the world, I mean, people basically want to do a little bit better than their parents did. They want to have food on the table. They want to see that their children are educated. They want to see jobs are available that compensate them fairly, and that the world is at peace, that they have clean air to breathe, that they have clean water to drink, and a roof over their heads. I think those needs are basic and universal, don't you think?
I agree. You bingo. You hit it right on the head squarely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And there's not so much to ask for,
Basically, just that our basic needs are met, and that we keep on moving and progressing as a society. Your book addresses the struggles of rural America, and they're very real right now. A lot of rural America actually has been devastated by drug use, unfortunately. But there are struggles of rural America, small businesses, and manufacturing, of course. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we talk about each of those sort of segments a little bit in the book, and we can't, you could write volumes about this, yeah. And some people have. What I was trying to do in the book was to bring everybody's attention to the fact that, the guy who has a men's store is going to be hurt by recession. He's going to be hurt by moving jobs overseas. He's going to be hurt by Target or another large employer. Pick your one. And so there's a lot of forces of friction focusing in on the folks. And you have to change to meet that challenge. You're not going to be able to get government subsidies to pave the way around those problems. These are not potholes. They're big, deep ditches that we have to cross. But we've got the ability to do it. Who would you rather be facing these problems that the world faces today? Would you rather be sitting here in New York and Washington like we are? Or would you rather be sitting in Ukraine or Poland or South Asia? And trust me, you don't want to be there. But you do want to be there helping. Again, not with a handout, but with a hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much dysfunction around the world right now. Like you said, we could be in Ukraine right now with the fear of living under a bomb attack. We could live under the tyranny of oppressive leadership in North Korea. We could be living in Israel or Gaza where you're worried about rockets raining down on you at any moment. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with dysfunction in the United States. I mean, I think, as I said earlier in this broadcast, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. And I think we've had a lack of leadership. And I think that we haven't seemed as strong as we once were. And I think that, opportunistic regimes like, President Xi in China might be well on a path to taking Taiwan next. So these are troubled times and dangerous times.
It's a little like Churchill said, the Americans usually get it right after they've gotten it wrong for 6 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, God bless the people who have defended and built our country and put us in the position where we're at today. Yeah. And, it didn't have to be this way. It is, and we better darn well do what is necessary to preserve it.
Yeah. And it's scary times because when you have a conflict in Russia, we can prop up Ukraine as much as you want, send as many weapons there as you want. Russia's holding nuclear weapons. Yeah. At one point, you'd never know when that regime is going to say, okay, this has gone far enough. We're going to resolve it today and we're going to go nuclear. I mean, and that's truly a frightening prospect. And that's the dawn of World War III.
And it's a really unthinkable. I agree. I was on the board of a government contractor that was involved in a cleanup of one of the U.S. nuclear plants. So I learned a little bit more than the average person has an opportunity to learn. And you can get through an attack, but the spread of nuclear waste, this does not go away. This is not your mother's, waste paper basket.
Exactly.
It's a serious problem, and just to think, all you would have to do would be explode a fraction of what's out there, weaponized plutonium, to come up with a real challenge to the universe. Yeah, that's our big responsibility. The president needs to be able to think twice. Yeah, at least about that. I think you can. The person who thinks that anybody can really ever pull that trigger is crazy. Yeah, stranger things would happen.
Yep, absolutely. It's a dangerous time. Hopefully things do get better. The name of the book is Inheritance of Crises and Dysfunction. It is a thought-provoking book that explores the deep divisions in American politics, international disarray, and personal challenge as well of aging and loss. Through the journey of protagonist Salt Pepper, we witness a gripping tale of clandestine diplomacy, resilience, and the search for solutions to crises, both at home and abroad. It's an amazing read. It's a compelling read. It's a novel that will make you reflect on the state of affairs in the United States and in the world in 2024. James, thanks so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to your audience.
I appreciate your time, sir, and your insight. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.
Visit us at www.greatwritersmedia.com. Email us at info@greatwritersmedia.com or call us at +1 877 556 0487.